249th Contact. Monday, June 13, 1994, 11:36 p.m. A talk between Ptaah and Billy. Topics covered include extraterrestrial visitors, meditation, the BSE and CJD, disease, fraudulent extraterrestrial contactees, overpopulation, medical technological advances, historical religious murders, cattle mutilation and human abductions by extraterrestrials. Ptaah says, "Hello, Edward, my friend." Billy says, "And hello to you too. I am delighted to see you." Billy says, "My first question refers once again to UFO sightings and so-called abductions by extraterrestrials. Can you tell me how many alien races currently fly to and from Earth and perform research here, or are active in some other way?" Ptaah says, "For many years now the same three different races have been active here. Our posture towards them has been to monitor their movements without interfering in their deeds, actions and activities, and for this reason they are unaware of our existence." Billy says, "Do these three extraterrestrial races maintain any contact with people on Earth? Have they maintained any contact with ordinary people on Earth or to the military, etc.?" Ptaah says, "As I previously mentioned during one of our conversations, I am not permitted to give any official information about questions pertaining to official or military matters in regard to contacts with non-terrestrial human intelligences." Billy says, "Okay then, what about ordinary terrestrials?" Ptaah says, "The three groups, that is, the alien races, maintain no contacts, with the exception of those required for examination purposes, at which time terrestrial humans, plants and animals are, or rather were, contacted for such tests and examinations. However, this does not mean that the mass hysteria and mass psychosis by everyone who claims to have been abducted and examined by alien beings, even who claims to have been abducted and examined by alien beings, even impregnated, all stem from such experiences. Truthfully, only very few cases occasionally occur around the globe, and they cannot really be classified as actual contacts in the manner you and we have them, though. As far as we are concerned, except for your case, there exist no other contacts, not even in a telepathic form. The contacts we maintain with people on Earth are of a purely impulse telepathic nature. For this reason, the contactees are unaware of the contact. They assume their accomplishments result strictly from their own initiative. Truthfully though, the information relating to their achievements, items produced, and other matters is generated by us and instilled into the individuals through impulse telepathy, and in every case their consciousness is unaware of this fact. They definitely have no idea that such information, etc., is instilled in them through impulse telepathy." Billy says, "So you do not call it an actual contact but a contact for examination when terrestrials are placed on board extraterrestrial flying machines and scrutinized by extraterrestrial human intelligences for analytical purposes. Hans and I have coined the term, examination contact, for this. Could I use the expression for this process?" Ptaah says, "In fact, this expression you have invented is really excellent. Examination contact. The wording softens the barb of a falsehood that human beings from Earth are abducted by extraterrestrials. The truth is that the aliens, the extrahumanoids, see nothing wrong with the examination contact. They regard it not as an abduction but only as the humane means of accomplishing their studies, through which they gather new knowledge and other facts." Billy says, "What about those repeated UFO sightings all over the world? They cannot all be real, can they?" Ptaah says, "That is correct, but we have discussed this situation many times previously. Only a small percentage are actual sightings, the remainder are based on sensory deception, charlatanry, fraud, lies, and deceit, to name but a few." Billy says, "What is behind this Quetzal and Semyaza explained to me once that Dan Fry, an American, actually did have contact with extraterrestrials. He is said to have taken photos as well, but he later destroyed them. Somebody made forgeries of them and attributed them to Fry. This is supposed to be the reason why none of Dan Fry's real photos of alien flying objects exist any longer. Even the story about the origin of the extraterrestrials and their accounts was apparently thoroughly distorted. This is what Quetzal told me, but it never appeared in any contact report. Ptaah says, that is exactly what happened. Billy says, well then, here's something regarding the pyramids. Someone who sells pyramids telephoned me recently. Of course I did not give him any details because of his line of work. But I also did not provide any details because pyramids are not as harmless as people on Earth generally think. It is a fact that copper is the only material which must be used for the meditation pyramids, because copper is capable of conducting electric energy, and does not generate those forces inside the pyramid that are dangerous, possibly even fatal, to human beings the way non-conductive materials do. Pyramids made from non-conductive materials such as stone, man-made materials, glass, crystal and similar ones, all have a propensity within their interior that causes, at the correct location, cell tissue and other things to mummify and utensil cutting blades to change. Living beings are killed by powerful forces that collect at the correct point due to the pyramid's shape. These powerful forces influence, change or kill anything located there. This does not happen with a conductive copper pyramid though. Depending on certain conditions, such as measurements, antenna and elevation, etc., some totally different, energizing forces develop within a copper pyramid. These forces then deflect the oscillations that strike the pyramid from the outside and develop into fatal forces. In order for this to happen, though, the copper pyramid must be completely enclosed and secured all the way around. For some time now, pyramid boom has been occurring in many countries and many types and sizes of pyramids are sold commercially. Isn't there a risk that dangerous things could result? Ptaah says, the things you mention have taken place for many years, so they are not just now beginning to occur. However, all the people who are, or were, harmed by such pyramids are not currently, nor will they ever be, aware that their ailments were caused by pyramids made from non-conductive materials. Pyramids are truly not as harmless as people on Earth assume. Billy says, this is probably a problem that will continue to spread. Ptaah says, yes, it probably will. Billy says, here now is something personal. Basically, I wrote the instructions for meditation after I had learned them from Svarth and Askit. But even at a young age I wrote about meditation before I put everything into a final format and published it during the 70s. And it is exactly for these instructions to meditation, or the meditation book, respectively, that I was accused twice already of plagiarizing my written material from another book. Ptaah says, I am familiar with this absurd claim. The title of the book, which you are accused of plagiarizing, is Spiritual Training Through Attentiveness. You should not concern yourself with this preposterous defamation, for none of its points is based upon the truth, as you very well know. The truth is that Svarth, and you may not remember this anymore, had translated the Satipat Toina method into German for you from various Pali and Sanskrit texts, and Askit did the same in 1954. It is for this reason that you had in your possession two almost identical translations. In 1948, as an 11-year-old boy in the 4th grade, you produced a dictated manuscript of 83 handwritten pages from Svarth's translation under the guidance of your teacher, Mr. Lehman. This manuscript was done so well that your teacher mimeographed 200 copies and mailed them to several people. Among them was Rohat Sanghanan, a monk whom you met much later on in your life with Askit's help. He instructed you in a variety of subjects. His name as monk was Mahakahan, which means the Great Master. He, in turn, was the person responsible for producing several copies of your manuscript during that same year, 1948, and sent them to several of his peers. This resulted in the first printed version. In 1954 ASCII provided you with a new translation, which you used to revise and produce your previous text on meditation. Together with ASCII, when she brought you to him, you offered your new version that same year to Munkrahat Sanghanan. Sanghanan deemed your work excellent, and again he made some copies of it and mailed them to his peers. Together with Swami Dharmawara, who is called Ananda Mahatma, Happy Great Soul, you revised your work once again during a 3-month period in 1964, while staying in India at the Ashoka Ashram in Merolai. Swami Ramanasama translated it into English and had it printed up. Then he disseminated 2,600 copies of this text, 2,100 copies more than the Munkrahat Sanghanan previously printed in 1948. Therefore, from the time you initially produced your first work on meditation in 1948, your material provided the basis for many other books on meditation, but their individual authors were never mentioned, and no clarification was ever made that these sundry other works stemmed from your initial material. On the contrary, the individual authors always asserted that they had been the producers of the texts or books. Indeed, they even claimed they were the translators of the original text in the Pali and Sanskrit languages, although it really originated through Svarth and ASCII's effort. Several individuals who claim to be authors speak neither Pali nor Sanskrit. Billy says, "What about the individual who wrote the book you mentioned earlier? Where did that person get the information on the instructions to meditation I had written?" Ptaah says, "You mean the Buddhist monk Nyanaponika. He obtained his wisdom about meditation from your initial text just as several others did. Furthermore, he and various other individuals also had access to Svarth and ASCII's translations." Billy says, "Yes, now that you mention all of these things I remember how everything happened during my school years. But it wasn't a dictation manuscript I had produced originally. It was an essay, from which Mr. Lehman generated a much shorter dictation version for the whole class. It was my essay he copied and mailed out. The wise old man in India, Mahakahan or, rather, Rahat Sanghanan, did not receive this essay directly from teacher Lehman, but from some monastery bigwig my teacher Lehman knew and to whom he sent my text." Ptaah says, "That may well be so if you," Billy says, "Mahakahan told me so himself." Ptaah says, "Then it is correct." Billy says, "I have a question here regarding BSE, the cattle madness, as this disease is called here in Switzerland. You explained once that basically sheep triggered this epidemic and then it was transmitted to cattle. This epidemic apparently can be transmitted to human beings along with all mammals." Ptaah says, "This is correct." Billy says, "With human beings it manifests itself as the so-called karu, which is called this way by the cannibals in Papua New Guinea, for instance, who devour their own kind and then become infected by their victims, provided they were previously infected with the disease. In other parts of the world this cattle madness epidemic is called Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome if humans are afflicted by it. But in spite of these facts physicians, veterinarians, politicians and others in charge are still vehemently denying that this BSE epidemic, rather cattle madness, or scrapie as it is called with sheep, can be transmitted to human beings. They also deny that the epidemic can be transmitted to other mammals. This contradicts your explanations. What is the name of the other syndrome if other mammals are infected by it? I have forgotten the term." Ptaah says, "You are talking about the Just-Menstruisler syndrome. Every mammalian life form can be infected by it, and its source is scrapie or BSE, respectively. The epidemic can be either hereditary or transmitted through bloody saliva in the same way AIDS is transmitted, and through specific external contacts with items such as feces, blood and meat, as well as the ingestion of infected meat, etc. Whoever claims or questions that contamination from the BSE epidemic, that is, the Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome and Karu, cannot be transmitted to humans, and that the Justman's-Troisler syndrome cannot be traced back to BSE and CJD with mammals.